The Rebel Capitalist Show.
I talk about Colombia quite often on my channel, especially Medellin, because I've been investing in real estate there since 2015.
Yeah.
And we can get to that in a bit. But why did you land in Medellin? What made you stay?
Well, after so many years in Latin America, let's see, that was 4 or 5 years ago, we said, okay, kind of bored of Uruguay, let's look for something else. And then we basically said, okay, where shall we move to? So I made an Excel spreadsheet, with taxation, climate, population size, internet speed, all these kinds of important metrics. And I made a spreadsheet with about 20 locations or so. And I said, okay, it should take about 2 years or so to check all of them out. And then 5 years later and 2 times around the world, we ended up picking Medellin.
Out of all those cities.
Yeah, I mean, Medellin is a great place to live. As you know, the quality of life is excellent. The climate is great. The value you get for your money is great. The food is good. Like, it's just all around a really good deal. And you still have a little bit of this perception gap due to Colombia's past, although this is like disappearing rapidly, I have to say.
Yeah.
So the secret is slowly getting out. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is, with Instagram, the internet, and all the kids, all the backpackers, all the tourists going there, especially pre-COVID thing. The internet gets that message out so much faster about how neat of a place it actually is. But I'm curious, what were some of the other cities that were close to number one? Like, what was the top 5?
Well, I mean, it's of course always a very personal preference, but for me, also in the top was Buenos Aires, where I used to live before. I was also prepared to basically move back to Buenos Aires, but it was a good choice to not do that, as Argentina is tumbling down very quickly and getting worse pretty much by the month. So another favorite of ours was Cape Town. I love Cape Town, but then again, to live there, very complicated in terms of residency taxes. And now also, in hindsight, a good choice, because it's also going downhill rapidly, South Africa. And then I like Kuala Lumpur a lot. I also like Bali a lot, but I'm not sure if I would want to live on a small island. So I kind of want to have at least, like, let's say 100,000 people around me to have like all the benefits that come with like a city, basically. But basically these are kind of the top places. And then there are a lot of other ones that are nice, but for many reasons don't make the cut to really like spend significant time there. And even here, Medellin, I mean, pre-COVID, I was every year spending my time in 15, 20 different countries.
Yeah.
Now this year last year, anyways, because of the lockdowns and stuff, it was quite limited. But now that travel is kind of open again, but still we're taking it a bit easy this year, because we've been traveling so much over the last few years, like the last 5 years, basically traveling nonstop, living more or less out of a suitcase. So for us, it's a really nice change to be home again more often, and get some work done here in the house. And now that the supply chains are really screwed up, everything takes a long time. Even for local products, I'm going to get a big library done right now out of tropical hardwood, and that's a local product in Colombia. But it takes 2 months to get the wood, and then takes another 25 days to dry it, and then the carpenter needs to do its job. So you're looking like at 3 or 4 months to get this done, and it's like that with literally everything that you want to get right now. If stuff comes from the outside, if it's imported, it's even worse. So everything takes its pretty time now.
Wow. See, I didn't realize that. I left Medellin in, what was it, April or May of 2020, because of the lockdowns. And I was just sick and tired of it. So I went to St. Bart's because they were completely open there. And then I traveled around, and I ended up in the United States. So I haven't experienced a lot of the supply chain disruptions, especially the grocery stores, were fine. Everything was stocked. There was really no difference that I saw, but a lot of places obviously weren't open where I was hanging out. I had a place in Provenza. I do most of my investing there. And so, the place right around Parquieras and up the hill by Al Alma and all those breakfast places.
Sure.
You just go to that little mini mart right there. I didn't really notice a difference, but how prices been? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking through there. If you're getting supply chain disruptions, are you seeing prices going up quite a bit?
With the foods, there's really, I haven't noticed any difference there. during the lockdowns, of course, there was some stuff running out, but in general, with the food, there's no difference at all. And honestly, I don't check really the prices of food when I go to the supermarket, right? But I can tell you, like, to get back to the example of wood, I mean, the wood price is basically doubled, and also got some stainless steel work done, a structure there that also has gotten more expensive. But to be fair, this is not a Colombian problem. I mean, I heard the other day that there are some chip foundries in Texas that are shut down because of supply chain constraints. I hear some stuff from Germany that there's a lot of problems. So, I mean, it's been a global disruption, and supply chains are global. And even in the development world, they are even more just in time. So the problems are even more severe. So this is something that's been destroyed in an instant practically, and it will take years basically to come back and get redeveloped. And that's if all this lockdown business and all this nonsense ends. I mean, right now it's really tough for many businesses.
Yeah, I know lumber prices in the United States have quadrupled.
So it's even worse than here.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I talk to a lot of macro guys on the channel, and you think through kind of the Keynesian argument for government deficit spending, and you say, okay, you go into a recession, aggregate demand decreases, and therefore the government needs to come in and spend enough money to bring aggregate demand back up until we get those animal spirits that can take over again, and the entrepreneurs can start borrowing money, growing their businesses, creating more goods and services, increasing productivity, and that brings the economic output back up to where it is, where the government theoretically can kind of ease off the gas pedal. That's the way it's supposed to work. Right? But
that's not only wrong, that's exactly the opposite of what should happen. I mean, the government is the problem here, not the solution. So the more the government gets out of the way, the better, right? I mean, government doesn't have any funds. It has to steal it from a productive business or individual, so it's hurting the economy there. Or on the other hand, if they print money, then it's an indirect tax, and it's hurting just as much. So the real solution to get back to everything running smooth and booming again is just to get rid of as much government as possible. So it's not only wrong, it's exactly the opposite of what should be happening.
Right, and I completely agree. But in what the specific question I want to ask you is, you've had the opportunity to travel to so many different places and so many different economies. And this is something I think gets lost on most of the people in America or developed nations who haven't had the chance to travel much, is how much do you think those animal spirits, just using that Keynesian word, are affected by regulation and taxes? Because you see where I'm going with this. If we just continue to increase taxes and increase regulations, just using the United States as an example, we've got to understand that's going to decrease animal spirits. It's not going to increase.
It's a slow suffocation. And in the developing world, basically the net effect is that you have a huge informal economy, and that's just as damaging for the people, because they don't have then as much access to the financial system and all the other structural benefits you get from a regular economy. So stuff just goes more underground, and people just stay more at a subsistence level. I mean, this is not helping people. It's just limiting business at every level. You look at it, it's just limiting. And of course, in the developed world, you don't see an informal economy just as much. Although, if I'm correctly informed, in the US, for example, it's also about 10%. So it's not insignificant.
Right. So if we kind of had to just wave the magic wand and come up with a perfect system for creating economic growth, we've got sound money. I think we'd agree there. We've got limited government, very small government, low taxes, and consistent rule of law.
Yeah, so, I mean, if it were for me, then you could even go more extreme and have no taxes, no government. But the direction is right.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just say that we've got sound money, but we've got bigger government and higher taxes. What does that economy look like? Can that flourish, or is government just too stifling, even though you've got the sound money component?
I mean, obviously, sound money is the basis for everything, because this the average person doesn't understand inflation and what's happening with the money supply and this indirect confiscation of wealth of the average person. So sound money, of course, is the basis in that sense. And the better the money, the better the basis. But then if on top of that, you have a big government that siphons off a lot of the wealth and with inefficiencies, regulation and taxes and all of that, then it's just suffocating it on that level. So really to prosper, you need both. You need sound money and you need to be left alone to just mind your own business, right?
Right. Yeah. And those are the cross currents that I'm always thinking about when I'm trying to think about the future and whether you go onto a gold standard or let's say a Bitcoin standard or anything like that. It's not only a cross that's takes us to a certain level, but then you've got the government component as well, which I'm always let's say apprehensive.